Hey everybody, this is Zach Rosen from The New Gay. I'm here at the Black Cat in Washington, D.C. with Pete Shelley from the Buzzcocks.
Hi.
Pete, we'll just jump right into the questions. I know that you got a sound check coming up soon. The first one, I've been wondering a lot, is there's a lot of kind of like queer teenagers that sit in their rooms and are lovelorn and write music about it, and a lot of them come out kind of in the Morrissey mold, which is a little more morose.
Yes.
And then yours came out pretty fiery, actually. So what do you think it is that kind of forced you toward punk?
It's because Morrissey tried to copy me, but didn't take all the best bits.
Okay. And do you feel like there was some kind of big queer punk scene back when you started, or do you?
Well, no, it was just that. But it was a time where people. The whole idea with punk was that people could do what they wanted to do. It wasn't about trying to be stereotypically rock and roll. And of course, everybody who was involved with punk knew that if it hadn't been for David Bowie, there would be no punk really, as it turned out. And so a lot of people who were, were straight and bi, who were curious or gay, they were all, they were quite unfazed by people having a sexuality other than the missionary position.
And is that, I just want to love her like any other? Is that where that comes from?
Well, I suppose so in a way. But really, it was about at the time. At the time, I was unattached, and Howard Devoto I was in the band with, and his girlfriend was Linda Sterling, who's now Linda Sterling, the artist.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really a song, like, I just wrote it after having a conversation with her one day. And so, that's why it's got the bit at the end, I don't, at the end it says, but what do I get? Nothing at all, I don't get you. Which was like a tongue-in-cheek thing. So,
Who is the you?
Well, it then became everybody's. That's the good thing about not being gender specific. You can say, oh yes, I always wrote that song.
Right. You don't say I don't get her.
Yeah.
Or I always picture, what being gay must have been like in 1975, and it seems a hell of a lot crazier than what it's like now. So, Orgasm Addict?
Well, no, it wasn't all that crazy. Well, Orgasm Addict was in some ways we wrote it about, because in the early punk thing, when you used to go to clubs, but most people were interested in punk music, and so the places that were tended to be there were like two gay clubs in Manchester. There's one which is like an underage drinking den called the Ranch, and another one called Dickens.
Called what?
Dickens.
Just making sure.
The Dickens. Yeah. Do you like Dickens? Don't know. Never been to one. And then there was another one as well, but I can't remember what that one was called. But they tended to be the places where they didn't have a door policy which excluded you from the get-go. And so there were places where people could hang out and because, like I said, because of the association between a lot of the music that we've grown up on, had this ambivalence about sexuality, and so we were heavy metal, had to protect their honour and manhood, and we were, seen as being a bit subversive and decadent, really, and it was a decadence we all thrived in, and that was something which was allowed in gay clubs. So there was a big association, really, as just being places where you could, hang out. In London, one of the first punk clubs was called Louise's, and that was a gay club as well. So it was just that the people were going, oh, you look different, you frighten me, you can't come in. They would allow people to dress as they wanted. If you wanted to wear a dress, you could wear a dress, and if you wanted to, come up with this new, I don't know, outrageous fashion which was associated with punk, then that was okay too.
Okay.
So and and also before that I was in college, and in college, you know, sexual liberation was all the rage.
Were you having that much sex at the time?
No, not really. No, that seems to be the odd thing. It but doesn't equate. And,
Did the song lead to you having more sex at least?
I imagine more sex than I would have got if I hadn't written it. But
And you know, you mentioned the gay bars a little bit. I was wondering, you know, you moved from like a more traditional punk sound to kind of more electronic with Homo Sapien.
yeah.
And I wonder, and that's kind of still what gay bars sound like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What was the path of moving from something like what the Sex Pistols were doing to something like what Kraftwerk was doing?
Well, the idea was never to be like the Sex Pistols. I mean, we knew we were kindred spirits, you know, you know, the kind of music we wanted to do. Because everything was like, you know, the widdly guitar solos. And we decided, no, that wasn't the kind of thing we wanted. And so when it came down to, I mean, I was just doing demos for a new Buzzcocks album, and I just had an acoustic guitar there, 12-string, and we had all this computer equipment. So we started using it just to, you know, give us a drum beat and a thing. And before we knew it, we were going, this sounds great, this. And so, but that's the reason why it seemingly leapt up. But I was always interested in bands like Kraftwerk and there's a lot of, like the German bands. So, I mean, I don't mean the Scorpions, but other German bands like Can and Noi. And so they were the bands which were, you know, had a bit of attitude to them, as well as making all these weird noises.
Yeah, but the thing about it's so funny that they can have attitude because it's such a cold sound. In theory.
Well, not really. But this was the challenge, and this is where we thought we did it right. But some people, I mean, you tend to think of cold sound because you think of like someone like Gavin Newman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was that bleak thing, you know, and you know, from the mid '70s, David Bowie was doing it in his Berlin period, you know. So there was lots of electronic music done like that, you know, and of course Kraftwerk, you know, We Are Robots. It didn't have to be like that. You could actually make music with it, and you could sing songs with these just different sounds, which tends to shock people. But at the same time, that's what excited me, because the fact that you could do something with it. Well, nowadays when you use electronics, nobody notices because it sounds like
everything else.
It sounds like something playing, really. You know?
Yeah. I mean, how do you feel also if you like it's a lot of the electronic music that gets played, or just music that gets played kind of in the gay scene now, is kind of electronic, but also doesn't really have that maybe warmth that you were talking about?
Well, I mean, I entered into it. I mean, I'm interested in melody and lyrics, you know. So for me, a song has to have those kind of things. For other people, no, it doesn't. And if you know, I'm not much of a dancer. In fact, I'm not a dancer at all. And so, but for me, it wasn't done as being somebody who was dancing and going, oh yes, this is what, you know, but this is what's happening, I'll do that. We were just like working in a studio and coming up with these ideas and thinking, this is great, this, and then we're letting other people listen to them, and then they went, oh, that's great, we could play that in our clubs.
That's cool, that's quite a progression. That's actually most of my questions for right now. I mean, how do you feel about gay scene, you know, 2010?
Well, no, I mean, I'm not really a part of it, really. I don't tend to go out and don't tend to go to clubs. Really.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not really, I haven't got an idea one way or another. But I think, you know, people enjoy themselves. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, cool. That sounds like a good place to end. Thank you.
Thank you.